Das Radical.
So, if you live in Iceland and don't live under a rock, you may be well aware of that the biggest news story in Iceland right now is that WOW Air has been declared bankrupt. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the situation, what is WOW Air? Well, it's an airline, obviously. It is one of only 2 Icelandic airline companies that flies internationally. That is back and forth from Iceland and perhaps to some other countries, or at least they used to, but they are not anymore. And in case you are wondering, no, WOW Air is actually not an acronym. It is not called WOW. No, it is just called WOW. And yes, that is an incredibly stupid name. So on that front, maybe it's better that they did go belly up. At least as far as that is concerned. But yeah, it is a huge news story in Iceland. It's been all over every newspaper. Here's my favorite from just today. Yeah, it says harkaleg landing, or basically brace for impact or crash landing. Now, a lot of people, or I don't know about a lot, but there are some people here in Iceland who are absolutely panicking over this bankruptcy because they're saying that this is the start to the next crash, and that our economy is going to, I don't know, that this is going to start some chain reaction that's going to make the economy fold or something. Now, I'm going to get into that in just a moment. Now, it just so happens, by a sheer coincidence, believe it or not, that one of my best friends was actually on board one of the last flights of WOW Air before it was grounded. And the stewardess came forward and basically told them that this would be one of the last flights that flight had gone bankrupt, and he actually got the whole thing on video. So I'm just gonna cut to a clip of that. Thank you, dear friend Gvendur, for sharing this with us.
Afsakið tafirnar, en við erum að koma inn til lendingar á Keflavíkurflugvelli.
Miss, are you telling us absolutely everything?
Þetta flugfélag núna gjaldþrota.
Listen to me. Your crew is in complete control of the situation.
Yeah, for some reason the stewardess wasn't wearing the traditional purple uniforms that they usually have at WOW, but whatever. So, now, could this bankrupt the economy? Not bankrupt it, but could this, but yeah, this could be a major economic setback of some sorts. But now, first of all, this has already led to the highest loss of jobs in a single day in Icelandic history, or so I read somewhere, don't know if that's entirely true. But as of now, roughly 1,100 people, or about 0.3% of the population just lost their jobs because of this. And there's gonna be, of course, there's a lot of work around WOW Air itself, a lot of tour guides, a lot of bus drivers, I don't know, the staff that fills up and refuels aircraft, and mechanics and blah 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 blah. So the amount of people that are gonna lose their jobs over this is bound to get higher. However, now, I don't think that this is going to cause any major economic setback. Now, the economy has been hit, sure, but here's the thing, people are still going to need to fly back and forth somewhat. Now, the problem is that, of course, being an island nation, it has always been a high priority for our leaders and the economy that we own as much of the resources we need to, dictate travels back and forth by the country on our own terms. That's why we consider it so important for Iceland, and probably for every nation, that it has its own shipping companies and airplane companies, etc. And, well, now the amount of airlines that are Icelandic and are flying back and forth from the country has been reduced to 1. Which is the other one is, of course, Icelandair. Now, what I'm getting at here is that something will, of course, replace the gap left by WOW Air in the market. People are still going to want to travel back and forth, tourists are still going to want to come to Iceland, and obviously if tourists come to Iceland, they need to go back one way or another. And yeah, because of WoW Air going bankrupt and all of its planes being grounded, there are now thousands of people stuck, not able to return home and stuck in Iceland. But you know, that is the easiest part of the problem to deal with. They will of course get, you know, rebooked on other flights, and according to what I read online, I think they will be compensated somewhat for their troubles. But like I said, getting people traveling again is the least thing to worry about here. Now, I want to just quickly talk about how the government is responding to this. Now, obviously, the crash only happened yesterday, so it's going to be some time for them to work through this problem and see what is going to be the best course of action to take. Now, there was some talks originally or some time ago about because obviously this has been a long time coming. WoW Air has been doing pretty poorly for the past few months or a year or whatever, and well, there were some talks about perhaps the government getting involved, taking over some of the business or financing the company to some extent, which is a very old, well-proven strategy here in Iceland when keeping well, essential functioning businesses running. We have had a long history in Iceland of companies that one would assume to be privately owned, to be somewhat administered by the government, just to make sure that, you know, the economy runs smoothly in order to keep a even trade balance with the foreign nations and to balance out the economy, etc. Anyway, let's turn our attention to the government and see how they are responding to this. Now, the Prime Minister, Katrín Jakobsdóttir, leader of the Left Greens, said that the fall of WoW Air was definitely a shock. However, she noted that the economy was very strong and very well prepared to deal with a setback like this. She also mentioned that there is currently, and that is very true, a great interest and enthusiasm for traveling to Iceland, so that the fall of WoW Air would probably not disrupt traveling that much, so the money coming in from tourism probably would remain roughly the same. At least, obviously, didn't say that directly, but that's what that's what I think she was getting at. And Minister of Finance Bjarni Benediktsson basically concurred what she said, and he also noted that, well, sure, this is a major shock, but we've been monitoring the situation for quite some time now, and the effects will probably not be as severe as one would have feared initially. We're just going to have to see just how bad the damage is going to be and make some adjustment in our next physical budget for the next year, and etc. And lastly, Sigurður Ingi Jóhannsson, who is Minister of Transportation and Settlement Affairs. Don't ask. Anyway, he said that the government was planning to work closely with the existing airlines like Icelandic and foreign airlines like EasyJet and presumably others, in order to get the normal circle of transportation back and forth from Iceland back on track, to hopefully minimize the impact on the Icelandic economy. Sigurður also mentioned, as I just did, that unemployment is gonna skyrocket somewhat because of this, but he views this as a temporary setback because, like I said, tourists still want to come, people still need to fly, these people who are working will probably get hirings in some other manner, so they'll need to temporarily find ways to compensate these people and get them back working as soon as possible. Now, I already saw a headline this morning saying that the pilots from WoW Air are already receiving lots of offerings from job offerings from other airlines. So, but obviously the pilots are very small part of the people who just lost their jobs, but it seems that the system is finding its own ways to recover itself. Now, I want to reiterate that, well, yes, this is an economic setback. I would not assume that this would cause any sort of major economic catastrophe, because when there is strong consensus by all involved, both the government and the private enterprises as well as the consumers, to find a solution and get back on track so that the travel can go back to normal, then things can usually be worked out. If you have this much consensus for working out a problem. Now, I'm not saying that the government always does exactly what it's right, or that it never fucks anything up. But in this particular issue, a lot of people could lose money from this. In Iceland we have a lot of invested interest in mainly travel and tourism, and especially a lot of rich people earn money through these means, and when rich people want something to get fixed, it usually gets fixed. So anyway, that's about all that I have to say about this right now. I mean, the bankruptcy was only like yesterday, so we'll just have to see how this all develops. Anyway, I am Johan Phoenix, and have a nice day. Basically, brace for impact, or crash landing. By the way, what fell out of the paper? Oh, hey, look at that. It's a commercial for Easter eggs.
Das Radikal.